Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Yo, welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk, the panel edition. My name is TK Trinidad, and I have special co-host today.
Hey, it's your girl Stephanie Hardy, the host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys.
Thank you, and Ella J.
Hello, Ella J here of a Wrestling Gal podcast. So happy to be here as well.
This is gonna be like really fun. I actually like doing these it's one of those things where people do get upset. I don't know why. It's just like, based off of feeling and perception. That's the like fun and great thing about wrestling, but I don't understand why, it's just based off of. So shout out to WWT ranking dude. He does all our rankings. So we pull it off our article, so you can go to our website, www.talkpod.com, to find everything there. But he kind of formulates everything, and he bases off of wins and losses and the standings for the first half of 2021. So let's get into it. We're going to start with WWE first. In the 10th position, we have Xia Li. So she's previously ranked number 7. She remains undefeated for the first half of 2021. She's part of the faction Tijen. I think I'm saying that right, but I'm probably saying it wrong because I'm terrible with names. But what do you guys think? 10th position.
I think it's a fair ranking for her. Obviously, she's been repackaged and has absolutely been blossoming and more intense than ever. She's had impressive victories over people like Mercedes Martinez. She's really coming into her own, and I think this really new heel character has really revitalized her in WWE, because we would see her sporadically ever since the Mae Young Classic throughout like the last 4 years. But I think this run is really, really promising. It gave her something new, and it shifted, I think, the trajectory of her career. And I mean, even as recently as at the time of recording this past week, she had a dark match on SmackDown. So if that's something to be commendable, I think 10 is a fair ranking for her. She definitely has the capabilities to rise up. I think she's going to.
Yeah, I say the same thing. I agree with her being number 10, because Xia Li really has been growing, and it's been, amazing for me to sort of see her go from being this nice girl who sort of made history on her own at the Mae Young Classic, and then all of a sudden now having this whole character change, and now she's darker, more grittier, and she's just not a girl that you want to mess with. And now she's challenging Raquel next week for the NXT Women's Championship. So to see her get to this point, with this new character has been, really cool. And her being with Tian Sha, with Boa and the mysterious woman whose name I can't remember right now, has just been phenomenal to watch. So I feel like she'll be higher on the next list at some point. So yeah.
Yeah, it always interests me as far as like when they repackage people, like I really wish, and I don't think this is ever going to happen, like I could just be a fly on like the creative wall on how everything comes about, because it's just like her packaging is amazing. And it's like some people, they do it works, it hits off, it makes sense. And then some people, it's like, wait, did you plan this or what? Like, what's going on? So I don't know if she planned it or somebody else planned it, but kudos to whoever made it happen, because I'm buying all of it. I'm definitely for it. So 10th position, I feel like, it's a good start. I mean, she fell a little bit, but only time will tell. So we're only halfway into the year. That moves us on to our number 9th position, Io Shirai. So what do you guys think of her?
Go ahead,
Steph. Yeah. In terms of Io Shirai, I would say her falling in ranking makes sense in the sense that we hadn't really seen that much of her after she had lost the title to Raquel Gonzalez. I believe she took what she said on television was that she took a little bit of a break or a vacation. So we didn't see her for a while, but then it's like once she did come back, she started antagonizing Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell in the way, and now her and Zoe Stark are a tag team, who is someone who just got introduced into the fold maybe a couple months ago, because she was a part of the PC class, and now they're at this time currently the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. So I think this is a pretty good place for her as a single star, because in terms of her singles work, she hasn't really done as much since she's lost, but I'm pretty sure maybe she'll be higher, hopefully with her partnership with Zoe Stark. So I think this is pretty accurate for her in terms of where she is in terms of singles work.
Yeah, much like Steph said, she really was out for like 2.5 months after she lost at NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver, and the fact that she is still in the top 10, I think, is just a testament to the amazing work she does. And even throughout the first 4 months, she was the NXT Women's Champion, and she'd been champion for over 300 days in a great reign in NXT, and had so many classic matches. I think honestly, anything Io Shirai does is gold. She is amazing in the ring. And now it's cool to kind of see her transition into this tag team role. And, we've seen Poppy pop in there and all that. And so it's cool to kind of see her in a new element as a tag team star now. So I'm interested to see where they go with her and Zoe Stark. I think number 9, again, like Steph said, is a fair slot. She was gone for like over 2 months, but she's still in the top 10. And I think, again, this might be a new chapter in her book now as the NXT women's tag team champion.
Yeah. And so last time, her previous ranking earlier this year, according to WWT Wrestling Dude, was number 3. So she's dropped significantly. But I think, like you guys were saying, because of that time off, it's allowed for other women to rise above. That brings us to our number 8 position, Miko Satomura. She was previously number 9. She's currently NXT UK's women's champion. So what do you guys think of this, her position, her ranking?
Mako Satomura is an absolute legend, and the torch just kind of been passed from Kaylee Ray to Mako Satomura. And again, this isn't the first time we've seen Mako. We saw her in the Mae Young Classic in 2018, the second one. And so it's kind of cool to see the torch kind of passed and her leading the way with her experience in this NXT UK women's division. And I think that the right call was made. Kaylee Ray made history, but I think Kaylee Ray again is on to greater and better things now, and Mako definitely has, again, the capabilities to really carry this NXT UK women's division, and I think just the division in general, and to defeat somebody like Kaylee Ray, who has held down the house and now has the second longest women's reign of all time, is amazing. And Mako, I think, was the right call. And 8 maybe put her a little higher, but I can also understand number 8 because, again, it's in the NXT UK women's division where maybe not a lot of people watch it, at least WWE wise. I don't know. I think 8 again is a fair ranking. I agree so far.
Yeah, I would say maybe she probably could have been a little bit higher, because I saw her first match with Kaylee Ray. Even though she did not win it that first time for the title, it was still one of the most stellar women's matches I had seen. And I don't necessarily watch NXT UK as much as I wish I could, because it comes on while I'm at work. But it's just, when I do watch stuff like that, I was interested in that match because of what she had done at the Mae Young Classic. So to see her finally win the title and actually end the reign of Kaylee Ray, who had held it for so long, was just really, really, satisfying for me to see. So I actually wish that she were a little bit higher on the list, maybe even number 7. But with her being number 8, it seems that she's off to a good start. So
yeah, shout out to Kaylee Ray too, because she just recently got married. So I don't know if that's why she dropped the belt, but hey, by the way, this is my thing, and you guys let me know, because I've been saying this for a while. I feel like WWE treats NXT UK like it's a redheaded stepchild. Like, it's like, oh, by the way, it's there. And you guys decide to watch, but if you don't watch, we don't care. Like, it's just very weird to me. It's like, at least, put in snippets. Like, hey, this was happening on NXT, so that it interests the universe that didn't know. It's just frustrating, especially for having, like, such great talent there that, like, if you're not into wrestling, or for me, it's because I watch it because of what I do. It's just like, how are you supposed to know? So it's frustrating that WWE just kind of leaves them out by the wayside. What do you guys think about that?
I agree with you, because you could see the way that they treat NXT UK in the way that they treated Piper Niven when she came up. Yeah, like, it's like, with the way that they sort of treated her when she came up, it was almost like they didn't talk about NXT UK as if it's a substantial thing. And it was so dumb that they would, and it felt like they were sort of insulting the intelligence of the fan base, because of course the casual fans may not know what that is, but then they also show advertisements for it all the time too on television. So I'm just wondering, like, how is it that you show advertisements for it all the time and expect people not to know? Or you could just do the commentary job and just say, oh, she's from NXT UK, and educate them, you know? And that just sort of frustrated me in a sense, because I'm just like, this girl, between the Mae Young Classic and the NXT UK division, she did so much. And then you bring her up to Raw and it's just like, oh, we don't know who she is. That's not fair.
And it's not like the Raw Women's Champion wasn't a former NXT UK Women's Champion. Same with Toni Storm going to SmackDown now. Exactly. They always talk about their accolades. And when you mention Toni Storm, you talk about NXT UK. Same with you're talking about Rhea Ripley's accomplishments. You have to bring up being the inaugural NXT UK Women's Champion. And same when Kaylee was showcased in NXT when she was still the current champion. And now all of a sudden with Doudrop, they don't even Piper Niven, Doudrop, whatever you want to call her, they don't even like mention it. They pretend they have no idea, but people are tuning in, and maybe they didn't because of the casual fans, but I think most people who watch WWE at least should be educated on it, at least mention it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they say, like, the announcers sometimes say stuff that, like, you can insert NXT stuff. Like, it's not like the show, it's 3 hours long. Like, I mean, you can put it in a sentence. I'm just, just saying. Now that was our mini, meltdown. But our 7th place is Natalya. So she previously wasn't on. She previously was unranked. She's one half the WWE Women's Tag Team Champion with Tamina. She's defeated Mandy Rose and Shayna Baszler in the singles competition. So what do you guys think? Number 7.
Based on Steph's answer actually to Mako Satomura, I would actually, I think, flip-flop Natalya and Mako. And again, maybe it's because the last 2 weeks they've lost twice in a row. But again, I know this wasn't part of the ranking. But even so, yes, she is now one half of the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. But they also had that loss at WrestleMania. And they really have been a team since like right before WrestleMania, right? So for about 3 months now, and are really just establishing themselves now. And it's been unfortunate now that the tag team division on the main roster has really flopped as of the last few months until these call-ups. And so there really wasn't, I feel like, a lot of tag team action. And if there was, again, it was always Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke since all the releases happened. And now obviously they've split up Mandy and Dana. So maybe I would flip Mako and Natalya, because I think Natalya has had a few more losses and they've only been a team for about 3 months now, 4 months, I think they can do more, but I think based on Steph's ranking on Mako, I maybe flip-flopping those two would make sense.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, I agree with Natalya being flip-flopped, like I said previously, because it's like with her reign as the women's tag team champions with Tamina, as wonderful as that is, for those two, especially Tamina, who had never held a title ever, like in her entire time with WWE. I don't know how that happened, but she never did. And it's as wonderful as that is, with all the releases that have happened, it's like they've sort of gutted their women's tag division, and now they're having to sort of, bring people up to sort of make up for that, which could be a good thing, if they do it right, which they have done with Shotzi and Tegan Nox. But at the same time, before the call-ups happened, you really didn't see Natty and Tamina all that much, outside of them having random fights with Mandy and Dana. And as much as I would have loved to have seen Mandy and Dana go up against those two for the women's tag team titles, now that's no longer a thing. So I feel like, and then like you said, Ella, Natty and Tamina have been losing to Shotzi and Tegan too on SmackDown for the past 2 weeks. So I would say that she really should have been switched out with Mako, and she should have been put at number 8 if she was going to be ranked at all.
Yeah, it's I mean, I'm glad, just because it's like the veterans, they've been around for a minute and they like disappear and you never know the reason why. And so I'm glad to see, you know, her in action and doing something viable versus just losing matches, which she was doing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see her, and you know, I don't know. I always feel like this is the last hurrah for Natalya, but for some reason she kind of goes and comes back. So I don't, you know, kudos to her for doing that. So I mean, any type of accolades and anything that she's doing now, as long as she's like winning and she's not, you know, they're not making her, you know, lose to unnecessary people, I'm always for. So I think I do agree. Let's flip flop that. But you know, I'm glad to see her on the list. Now, this our number 6 spot, she's dropped down significantly. She's previously number 1, Sasha Banks, excuse me. She lost WWE SmackDown Women's Championship to Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. She hasn't wrestled May or June since losing her title. So what do you guys think of this position?
Much like Io Shirai, I think it makes sense. She had an amazing first 4 months leading up to WrestleMania, and that WrestleMania match was absolutely spectacular. I think she had a great run as SmackDown Women's Champion, and obviously has now gone on to Disney during her time away. And so again, I think it makes sense, much like Io Shirai. She was out for 2+ months after WrestleMania, and it has still not returned. So it makes sense that she would drop a little bit, but I think the anticipation and hype for her return is so worthwhile that I think number 6 is still a fairly good ranking for her, because she's always she's what's the word, like a money maker, you know. She makes money. Sasha Banks is money, like she's the boss. So I think even if she's away, people are always like, we want Sasha Banks, like we love her work. And so I think number 6 is a fair standing. Again, much like Io Shirai, she's been gone, and so she, of course, you're gonna drop a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I agree, even though Sasha is my GOAT for life. She's my GOAT for life, but dropping to number 6 from number 1 is accurate, because she had one of the best runs as a SmackDown Women's Champion, and one of her most substantial runs as a champion. So with her losing, but technically not, I guess in a personal sense, not really losing, to Bianca Belair at WrestleMania in that match, you know, it made sense that she would drop down. And then when you saw her on the SmackDown afterward, it's like she sort of stormed off and just left to go film Mandalorian stuff, which I'm not mad at all. Girl, get your money. So I believe number 6 is a pretty solid spot for her to be in. And people were even talking about her because they thought for sure she was going to come back at this past SmackDown in Houston. So it's just, people are always going to be talking about her because she's the best at what she does. So once she does come back, it's going to be a heck of a hallelujah time. So number 6 is pretty accurate for her.
Nice. Have they announced how long the filming is going to take, or is it like under wraps?
It's under wraps.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Disney. That was a stupid question. Disney doesn't.
It's Disney and Star Wars. Yeah, it's under.
I know, right? Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I feel like Sasha Banks, like every time she leaves for an extended period of time and comes back, she like just it's like a new version of her, but the same version of her. I don't even know how to explain that, but I mean, but every time she comes back and she gets a run of some sort, she makes, like you were saying, Stephanie, money. Like that's just all she is. So I agree with this. I believe that she doesn't, depending on how long the filming takes, excuse me, she might drop down a little bit more, but where she is right now, I'm definitely cool with that. And that also, congratulations to her and Bianca Belair being featured on or getting an award from ESPN, the ESPY Awards. So, I mean, that's something to be talked about, because you know, you have half the sports universe that doesn't, you know, consider wrestling real, and you have the other half that like really appreciates it, and ESPN is like the, you know, the sports authority, you can say. So getting an award for that's pretty impressive. So congratulations to both of those people, Bianca and Sasha. That moves us into our 5th position, Raquel Gonzalez. She's previously number 10, so that's a huge jump. She won the NXT Women's Championship from Io Shirai at NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver. She's defended her title against Mercedes Martinez and Amber Moon. So she's currently in the number 5th spots. So what do you guys think?
I would make an argument that she could even be number 4 in this. Oh, I'm frozen. Oh wait, sorry, I thought I was frozen. I would make an argument that she could be a spot higher. Because she's been so dominant this year, and again, even starting off the year in the NXT Women's Dusty Rhodes Classic, to obviously, and then they ended up being the first ever NXT Women's Tag Team Champions with Dakota Kai, which they lost, but it was to serve an ultimate purpose to be the woman to finally overcome Io Shirai, who again had an over 300 plus day reign and really ruled NXT. And she has been really this Goliath. And even through her NXT Women's Championship reign, we've also seen her intermingled in the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. And she's really been a constant and been beating some names again, like Mercedes Martinez, Ember Moon, Io Shirai, everybody really in her path. So they're really pushing her. I would argue that she could be a spot higher in this list. And as again, she's been really featured every single week.
Ella, I agree with you, because I was looking at the list myself and I scrolled up and saw, and I was just like, nah, Raquel could be number 4. Mm-hmm. Because it's like you said, like she's been on a dominant tear ever since she won the tag titles with Dakota Kai, only to go on and lose those and then go on and face Io Shirai and dethrone her and basically prove herself against these, you know, these icons in Ember Moon and Mercedes Martinez, future legends. But it's just, she's been on a tear, and I'm really excited to see where she's going to go with Xia Li in that match next week. And then, of course, if her and Dakota Kai might feud, because they're planting those seeds little by little. So that's going to be really cool. So I would argue and say that she shouldn't be number 5 and that she should be number 4.
Yeah, I feel like I love when whoever the writers are, kudos to them, when they like plant those seeds and you're just waiting for them to drop.
Mm-hmm.
So, like even I was watching Raw with, you know, Eva Marie and Doudrop. Like, you know, something's gonna happen. Like, you know, and you just don't know when. Like, I love the anticipation, but I also hate the anticipation because, like, I want it to happen now because I want to see what happens. But that's, you know, a personal issue. But I actually believe that she should be in the 3rd spot. So I think she should be 2 higher than what she is now. But I mean, she's had an incredible rise. And another one from Mae Young Classic. Just seeing, it's almost like, I don't know if you guys feel the same way. It's when you see somebody start in WWE or even the indies, and you just see their career. Like, you legitimately witness their career to championship. You feel like you have like a little bit of ownership, if that makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel the same way. I was just like, man, like I'm so happy for her, and I feel like she should definitely be higher. It's definitely well deserved, and I like the trajectory where she's going. So that was our number 5th position. Our number 4 position goes to Charlotte Flair. She was previously number 8, so another huge jump. She defeated Rhea Ripley by DQ at Hell in a Cell, and she's wrestled 25 matches in the first half of 2021.
Yeah, that's more than, no, actually that's about exactly the amount of weeks there are in the first half. Would be like 26 or technically or whatever. I think again, Charlotte, they're always going to push Charlotte, and I love her, but I really don't know how she is above Raquel. Maybe it's because she's always in like the championship picture, but she was also gone for a couple weeks, like leading up to she was away leading up to WrestleMania. And then she walked out, and then she came back, and again, she's been obviously at the focal point of the Raw Women's division alongside like Rhea and Asuka and all of them. So I can understand her being towards the middle of the pack because she's always at the forefront of a championship picture, but I don't think she should be above Raquel. So maybe number 5 or number 6, somewhere in the middle of the pack, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ella, because even though Charlotte Flair is one of their most dependable stars, most of the time, about a good 98% of the time, you can depend on Charlotte Flair to perform and be at her best most of the time. And even though she did defeat Rhea Ripley by DQ, it's still by DQ and you're still not champion. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering why, like, I feel like she should be a little bit lower on the list because of the fact that her feud with Rhea has something there that they just haven't quite reached yet. There's a level of intensity that I feel like they either missed the boat on or they haven't reached quite yet. Because even with Hell in a Cell, I felt like as much as I love Bianca and Bayley and what they did, I feel like Rhea and Charlotte could have benefited from having a Hell in a Cell match because they hate each other. They have history from when they fought each other in NXT, you know, last year, like for the NXT women's title. There was so much that they had. So it's just like, I wanted them to have that moment there. So it's just, I feel like, even though Charlotte is dependable and she has been great in terms of her character work, kind of like the Black Swan princess, I feel like she should be a little bit lower too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of you guys. You know, we already know she's a Hall of Famer in the making. She's on her way to being that. I feel you were saying that, Stephanie, it's kind of like she is dependable. So it's like when they don't have a story idea or they need somebody, it's like throw Charlotte in. And it's just kind of like you have a whole roster of women. Like I just want WWE, like the writing room, just to make me understand so then I won't complain as much. Like I don't want to, like I'm definitely not that person who's like on Twitter, like just Twitter fingers after every show, but it's just kind of like make me understand the logic in pushing like very like certain people all the time and leaving the rest of the people in the locker room. Like, are they like terrible people in the locker room? Like, what's going on? Like, just make me understand that, because like I definitely, you know, Charlotte definitely deserves everything that she's received, and not received, she's earned. But it's just kind of like, okay, there's more people you can use. So I think she should be a little bit lower, but you know, I definitely see a championship belt on her waist sometime this year for some reason. I don't know. I feel it. Our third position goes to Alexa Bliss. She's previously number 6. She should have received a title shot at WrestleMania, but she didn't. She defeated Randy Orton, Asuka, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, and Nikki Cross. So what do you guys think? Third position.
Alexa Bliss should be number 2, in my opinion, because she, even if there hasn't been a lot of women's time, Alexa Bliss has been on Raw every single week, and she's really been the most consistent and longevity-wise storyline stemming from last year to now. And like the thing says, still in the record book, she defeated Randy Orton, Asuka, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, and Nikki Cross. And the fact that she doesn't really need a championship to be intriguing or unique in all of that really is a testament. And I really think that she should be number 2, because even if there isn't a lot of women's action, there's always Alexa Bliss has been constant, and she's giving us something different. It's showing that you don't necessarily need a championship at stake to have like a focal women. I personally think she should be number 2 ahead of Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to say for me, because even though Rhea is the Raw Women's Champion, it's like I said earlier, there's something missing with her and Charlotte. But at the same time, with Alexa Bliss, it just seems like she's doing such a great job filling the shoes that Bray Wyatt left empty. In terms of all of the supernatural scary stuff, and it just never stops being intriguing. Like even though a lot of people don't like Eva Marie, I thought it was so funny this past week when Alexa was running after her and Eva Marie was trying to beat her with a shoe, because I was just like, girl, what is the shoe gonna do? At the same time, it was still so funny. So I feel like everything that Alexa has done, from being the goddess to now being this crazy, creepy girl, you know, and being the supernatural. I don't think really any woman has ever tapped into supernatural like that. I can't remember, as far as I know from my knowledge of watching wrestling. So I think it's really intriguing, and everything she does is still entertaining, even though a lot of fans have turned on her on Twitter. I don't know why. It's still interesting. So I would kind of agree. I agree with you, Ella, that maybe she should be number 2. And Rhea should be number 3.
So I feel like, I think you said this, Ella, too. It's like she doesn't need to be champion in order to be like recognized. She does such a great job. And I was going to ask the question, like, is it more talent or direction? But I feel like it's just talent. Like you can't teach that. Like you could teach yourself that, but you can't really teach that.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So I feel like she's definitely deserving of where she is right now. But I honestly feel like it doesn't matter. That makes sense. It's like she could be anywhere on the list, even whether she's wrestled or not. It's just her body of work in general is just so good. So I would stick to this position, but it's just more of that. I don't know if I can't call her a GOAT yet. I don't even know what the qualification for a GOAT is yet. But I think she's on her way to being that as far as character. But I don't mind her being at number 3. That moves us on to our second position, Rhea Ripley. She's previously unranked, so that's a huge jump. She's currently the WWE Raw Women's Champion. She won the title from Asuka at WrestleMania. So what do you guys think of this position?
Like I said previously when talking about Bliss, I think Rhea Ripley should be placed at number 3. Obviously, yes, she is champion, but her leading up to that victory was so rushed, and it felt like a plan C going into WrestleMania. I loved the moment of it, but leading up to WrestleMania, it was like literally 2, maybe 3 weeks of like, oh, here you go, Rhea. We're just going to thrust you into this championship picture. And previously, she hadn't wrestled on TV since the Royal Rumble. It would have been, I think, more convincing had she been on Raw, maybe weeks prior, leading up to it, or on SmackDown, or at least doing something on the main roster. She just kind of appeared out of nowhere. And like, I think she is, I always love her, but it felt rushed going into WrestleMania. And again, we've kind of seen the same people. It's always Charlotte and Rhea. And they're, like we said, I feel like Steph's, or like TK said earlier, I don't think we've gotten to that final. One of you guys said it. I don't think we finally have gotten to that pinnacle between Charlotte and Rhea. We haven't had that like, oh my God moment, you know? And so I think they're not done yet. And so I think maybe I just want to reach that point where we finally get that Rhea breakout moment that we saw in NXT. And so I'm just holding out hope that, you know, they do something new with her. And I just want her to be like, they need to up her even more creative wise. And so for me, that's why Rhea Ripley would be number 3.
Yeah, I agree with you in the sense that she should be number 3, because even though she is the Raw Women's Champion, and she and her, Bianca and Raquel's are sort of ushering in this new age of women being on top. You mentioned how she sort of got rushed to the title picture against Asuka at WrestleMania, which is true, but at the same time, it's like I think they did that so it wouldn't just be Charlotte and Asuka again like we've seen before. And I understand them. I appreciate them and that effort in doing that and having Asuka put over the new age of the new women, you know, coming from NXT. But it's like, and Ella, I do agree with you in the sense that we didn't see her, you know, before that, because it's like she fought Raquel Gonzalez in the last woman standing match at NXT, and then she got smashed through the stage, and we didn't see her anymore. So, and then she got put up on Raw, and she wanted to challenge Asuka, and now she's champion. And that's a good thing that she is champion, but it's like I said, there's something missing with her versus Charlotte that hasn't been locked into yet.
Yeah.
Plus, not to mention, we don't necessarily know if she's heel or if she's an anti-hero, if she's face either. So you're just kind of left in limbo with her. You know you love her, but you're just kind of in limbo with her. So yeah, she should be a little bit lower. She should be number 3.
That's a good point too. She's kind of been this tweener. Like, you obviously know Charlotte Flair is the bad guy, you know, it's doing everything sneaky, but Rhea Ripley has shades of being a good guy. Like when she was teaming in that 6-man tag, she was obviously clearly on the babyface team, but she's also stealing some of Charlotte Flair's tricks. So you're like, what is Rhea Ripley? You know, there's something missing, like you said, Steph.
2 questions. How long do you think it should take for somebody for WWE to build a storyline for somebody? Like, do you think 6 weeks? Do you think 10 weeks? Do you think it just depends on the person? What's your guys' opinion?
I think it depends on the person and what's at stake. Do you mean like championship wise? Like if they're leading up to a championship victory, or if it's something like in Alexa Bliss where they had weeks and weeks of her transforming from the goddess to now like this darker Alexa Bliss. This was over weeks and weeks, but there wasn't a championship at stake. So I really think it depends on the situation, whether it's a championship change or a character change.
I honestly think almost you can apply the time period to both, because it takes, like if you look at marketing and advertising, it takes somebody 7 times to really kind of almost invest in something. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to go and purchase it, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I feel like some things when they rush it, it's like you kind of hesitant. It's like, I feel like with Rhea Ripley, I understand what happened, like you were saying, Stephanie, but if they had built it, do you think that you'd be more on board with her, or is it just kind of like it's a case by case basis, like as far as the talent and then what they do as far as writing? Like there's just a lot of elements. So I was just kind of wondering, like, if you guys can wave your magic wand, like say, okay, well, legitimately a story will get 10 to 15 weeks or 8 to 10 weeks to kind of build up for everybody to be on board.
Yeah, I think it's case by case and it's situational, I think. Like, that's really what I think it is. I think it's situational, because I feel like if Charlotte had not have taken the time off or gotten COVID, I think is what happened. Had she not had gotten COVID, then maybe Rhea wouldn't have had that opportunity, and maybe they would have had time to build that story between her and Asuka, which probably would have been her, Charlotte, and Asuka, like in a triple threat, maybe. If they had had that time to do it, then maybe it would have been a little bit better. But seeing as it was a situational thing, Charlotte got sick, you have to go to the next best thing or the next dependable thing. So I think it's mainly situational.
Yeah, I have to agree. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely see Rhea Ripley. I mean, her transformation has been crazy.
No doubt.
And I love that. And do you also, I think Ella, you had mentioned it too, and Stephanie, where you don't know whether she's a babyface or heel, but isn't that kind of there's some WWE superstars that are gravitating more towards what humans are in general versus being like extreme characters, because like nobody's really like people, everybody's not supposed to lie, but people do lie sometimes. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of gray. And I think for Rhea Ripley, like, it's like there's a lot of, this is kind of the makeup of human beings, right? So I don't think it should be applied to everybody, but I kind of like this, because you're not sure, but you still have feelings towards her. Whereas, somebody like at one point Roman Reigns, where you're like, okay, well, this is what he's supposed to, he was very lukewarm for a long time. And now you have you hate him or you like him. With Rhea Ripley, I feel like where she is right now, we're not really sure where she is as far as where her standings are, but like you either hate her or you love her. So I'm really, I don't know if it's testament to a character or, the talent scouts behind, but kudos to her being in the WWT number 2 spot. And that brings us to the number 1 spot. She was previously ranked number 4. She is currently the WWE SmackDown Women's Champion. She won the Royal Rumble and defeated Sasha Banks to win the title at WrestleMania, Bianca Belair. So what do you guys think?
This is right. It's right. It's right. Period. That's it. Like, it's correct. She's had the best half of a year I've seen any woman have. And not even just that, like, she even faced Bayley in Hell in a Cell for her first time. And I think they said she was the first non-4 horsewoman to actually be in a Hell in a Cell match when they started doing the women's ones.
That is true.
And she actually won and beat Bayley, who had been in Hell in a Cell twice. So there's nothing she can't do at this point. She can advertise. She represents, great representation amongst Black female wrestlers. Her and Sasha Banks won the SB, like TK mentioned before, for the historic match. There is nothing. And then she had a great, she retained her title for the first time in front of a crowd at SmackDown in Houston against Carmella. So she's just having a beautiful moment now, and they just don't need to ruin it. Like, everybody was cheering her in Houston. They just don't need to ruin it. She's amazing. Like, her being number one on this list is right. And that's all I have to say.
No doubt about that. Bianca Belair should be number one and is number one. And I agree with this ranking wholeheartedly. Like Steph said, I don't know what else I can add. She is the SmackDown Women's Champion. Her and Sasha won an SB. And again, that's just even more proof that their match at WrestleMania was, it really transcended wrestling and transcended life. It had a great message to it. And the match itself was incredible. She won the Royal Rumble in such an emotional and well-deserved moment. And she went from number 3 to number 30. Again, incredible moment in the Women's Royal Rumble. And she's beat Sasha Banks and Bayley and Carmella. And I really think, I don't really know how much higher you can go, but Bianca Belair really is transcending and upping her game each and every week. And I think this has been an incredible run so far. And I'm interested to see though where they go next with Bayley out of the picture. Maybe Sasha Banks will return, and maybe we'll get that rematch that I think a lot of people are hoping for.
Yeah. Also, kudos to, not only is Bianca Belair amazing, she made the dress for the SBs. Like
Yes.
Like she can do no wrong. I don't know. I feel like the next step once she hits the pinnacle is for her to just go on a vacation. Like, okay, just take 3 to 4, because like you can't. I like Stephanie. I think you said I don't want them to ruin it by having like okay, because no matter what, there are always the ups and downs. So it's gonna be a down eventually, and I just feel like her down should just be her going on vacation, not her losing to like the locker room, which has happened to some people. But I think I want to kind of say we're all collectively protecting her because we've seen her rise. So we don't want to see, WWE poo-poo on her, for lack of better words. But definitely well-deserved. She definitely needs to be number one. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen next with her. All right, folks. So that is our rankings for the first half for WWE. If you want to see the rest of the rankings for AEW, Tag Team Division, and Impact, you can go to www.talkpod.com to check that out. There's some really good rankings there. Definitely hit up WWT Ranking Dude if you have any issues. Don't hit us up. Hit him up, because he's the one who did all the rankings for us. But definitely go and check out the article and just see where everybody is. And then on top of that too, we have more articles there for you to check out and get to know more about women's wrestling, because the women's wrestlers are amazing and women's wrestling is amazing. I mean, we are Women's Wrestling Talk. With that being said, Stephanie, where can everybody find you?
Okay, so you can find me and my show, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod, like in the right there. And you can listen to the show everywhere you get your podcasts: Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts.
There it is. And Ella J, where can everybody find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at It's Ella J, and you can also follow my podcast on Instagram and Twitter at A Wrestling Gal. And much like Stephanie, you can listen to A Wrestling Gal on all your major podcasting platforms like Apple, Spotify, Anchor, and Stitcher. And you can check out more at awrestlinggal.com.
There it is. So make sure you guys are following our two amazing co-hosts. You can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. Also, make sure that you're following Women's Wrestling Talk on all social media platforms, WW Talk Pod. Also, check out our website, www.talkpod.com. We have some amazing things happening, some great news happening in 2 weeks. So definitely stay tuned for all of that. Till next time, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Ciao.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.